How many of you are on the receiving end of performance appraisals? Okay, you get appraised, and then, okay, right.
I have my employees rate me also.
Okay, all right, that's great, right? But then the two of you, or maybe you as well, are doing the appraising as well. But it really should be something that is integrated throughout the entire organization, all the processes in the organization. So, for example, training, right? How do you know what kind of training is best suited for your employees if you haven't done some kind of evaluation on how they're doing the work that they're doing? And whether you use a structured process, a structured process or not, with a form or documentation formalized or not, you're still doing an evaluative process. And there are all kinds of things that hamper that process as well. So what do you think it's dysfunctional? From your experiences, either today or in the past, why do you think it's being called dysfunctional? Yeah, there's a lot of fear associated with performance appraisals. We go in and you can see your boss every day or almost every day, but when it comes to performance appraisal time, there's this kind of nervous anxiety associated with it. All too often, pay is in the middle of the discussion, and it really should not be. It should be post-performance appraisal discussions. And so 69% of millennials think that the system is flawed. 62% feel blindsided, like completely surprised by what's going on. 74% feel in the dark about what managers think, which is what you were saying. 50% react to their performance appraisal by looking for another job. This is not good. Performance appraisal should help. That process should help move through and navigate the waters, both when things are going well and when things aren't going so well. Having all of these, let me see, is there another one there? Yeah, identifying training needs. Having all of these things that appraisal process can do doesn't mean you should shoot to try to do all of them at one time, right? Especially if you're new in introducing some kind of formalized or more formalized process. The discussion needs to be centered around either what the job is now and current duties, or it needs to be in terms of the future. Can you have that in one meeting? Yes, but you're talking about, you have to literally shift gears in your discussion and when you think in terms of the future. Does that make sense? If we have a discussion about money in that individual performance appraisal discussion, sometimes we jump the gun, I think, in making those decisions. The whole process should be done, and then the decisions about pay should come out. When we go back, we want to start this process by establishing expectations, right? Now, the very first thing we need to understand is, what does the job entail? Right? And so the formal term for this is job analysis, doing a job analysis. And this is not rating a person when you do the job analysis. This is really, what are the functions of this job? Regardless of who's in it, what are the functions of this job? What are the tasks, what are the skills and the knowledge set and abilities required in order for this job to be accomplished successfully. Now, we should be able to do that with pretty much any job that we have in the organization, from the lowest level job to the highest level job. So some of these things we can do, we think about it in the same way, though the information that you would identify would be different. And that's really, really important to understand that there's a tendency to want a form, and there's a lot of organizations that use forms, and I have some examples of forms for you. But recognize that not all of your employees are going to fit into that form the same way. And being cognizant of each job family. You may have 2 or 3 employees or 15 employees that fall under a job family where the form could be useful across the board. But if you have people that are doing different things from one point to another, maybe they're on project teams, and so their projects, their skills, and what they're doing from a week to week, month to month will change up. That needs to be articulated in the goals and understood in those expectations, so that we're really getting kind of a complete picture of what what is expected to happen.
So what are some examples
of good communication? And that's really the hallmark of a lot of these evaluative forms is if I'm going to be evaluated on communication, I need to know what that means for me. And so that the goals themselves, I have lots of stories, specific, what's needed to be accomplished, the when and the where, and then time-based, having some kind of time frame. This says to be aggressive yet realistic. I think that that's reasonable as well. Again, keeping in mind what the various situations in which employees are working. This is a behavioral assessment competency, and this is the different competencies distribution method, and this is actually employed by a lot of organizations, a lot of big organizations, where they have a population and there's this belief that the bell curve is true. All right, so I have some tips for the appraiser. All right, first thing you want to do as you're working up toward that evaluation, you've set the goals, you've gone through and you've collected information, you've gotten all that ready to go. You want to schedule those appointments, and you want to do that. All right, so be prepared to discuss specific examples of job-related performance. And this is key all the way through the process. Is you shouldn't be evaluating anything that is not job related. And so those dimensions that have been set forth at the very beginning obviously would be job related dimensions. And so this discussion should be job-related performance. Create an atmosphere for two-way communication. Hopefully that's been established already with the goal-setting process. Again, you're going to have different personalities that you're dealing with, and so some people you may have to drag it out of them. Really, I do want your opinion on this. Really, I do want you to tell me why you evaluate yourself this way versus some other way. And so then as you go through this process, you should identify what's the next steps. And so you've given this information, you have the discussion, and as a result of that, what are we doing next? Are we adjusting the goals? Are we looking at our current situation and what does that mean for the future? Where are you in terms of you're close to promotion? All right, so for the appraisee, if you're being appraised, make sure you understand the expectations on all dimensions, right? Get informed, get educated about what it is that is your expectations, and you should have that either in a document or you write them down and take them to the manager and say, does this sound right? Somehow make sure that you are reaching for the correct deliverables. What research has shown over and over again is if you train the appraisers, those errors tend to fall away. If you make people aware of what their tendencies might be, that it does a lot of good in dropping those errors. And so if you build trust in the process, you're going to feed trust. But and people know, right? People really know.